Hey, how's it going?
Excellent.
So, we'll introduce us to Misty in 1 second, but first of all, I want to make sure we're introduced to you in. Tell us a little bit more about your background and how your sort of journey went from Sphero, which a lot of people will know for the BB-8 robot a couple of Christmases ago. How did you get from there to this guy?
Yeah. So I've been building robots since I was 12. Went to this competition. They had a workshop, built my first couple robots, and ended up taking VCRs and cassette players apart and building robots, and still doing it today. In 2010, started a company called Sphero, which is mostly in the gaming and entertainment space, toy space. 2015, we came out with BB-8 from Star Wars, licensed product through Disney, connected to your phone. You can program it, all kinds of stuff. And when we were out at Disney in LA, thinking about BB-8, we thought, BB-8's awesome, really cool robot, but why can't we make a real BB-8, like a real BB-8 or a real R2-D2 that can start to do real stuff for us? And that was the idea behind Misty. So that was about 4.5 years ago. 2.5 years ago, spun Misty Robotics out of Sphero, so we're a different company now, and just started shipping Misty about 6 weeks ago to backers.
Okay, and so what does she do?
Whatever you want, I say she.
Yeah, so give us a quick tour.
Yeah, so Misty is a development platform for software developers. So an individual or a business that might have a use case for robots, but they don't have millions of dollars in 4.5 years and a big team to create a robot, their own robot. So they can write software for Misty in JavaScript super easily. We have tools, all the documentation you need, and then the robot, of course, which has a lot of capabilities, so you can really start to do some useful things. So microphones on the top, so you can do audio localization, voice interaction with speakers. She has a bunch of sensors in her visor for cameras for computer vision, so she can recognize your face and objects and stuff like that. Other sensors for mapping and navigation. And then, of course, she's mobile. She can drive around and interact with the environment.
Right. And so how does it communicate?
So it communicates over Wi-Fi. So it connects to your office, your home's Wi-Fi network.
How does it communicate with people?
People. It communicates with people either through voice interactions or emotion. So we've provided developers a lot of different, like an iPack and a sound pack for all these different emotions, fear and sadness and happiness and joy and all this different stuff. So it's kind of up to the developer at this point how they want to craft that personality and communicate with the person, whether it is voice. Mostly we're providing the tools and a lot of example code, and then it's up to the developer how they want to implement that, or what they want to use to implement their skill for the robot.
And it's important that you say software developers, right? So you don't need hardware experience to play around with this, but
yep.
it is also sort of hardware extensible as well, right? You can 3D print different parts or put different things onto the backpack.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one of the differentiators that we have, is you don't have to be a roboticist anymore. And that's kind of, ever since I was 12 and started building robots, it's basically the same today, other than Misty. People are just building robots over and over. They get a Raspberry Pi or an Arduino or another microcontroller. They hook in some sensors, some motors, and they build a robot that maybe doesn't run into stuff and get stuck. People are just sort of doing that over and over. We want to get that out of the maybe 10,000 roboticists in the world to the 23 million software developers in the world. So there's way more and a lot of creativity out there. Allow them to create skills and applications for robots without having to know about the hardware. Like you said, it is expandable. Like Misty here has a little fingerprint sensor on her arm that our engineer built.
And so, but you're also, at this point, you're aiming it at developers rather than trying to send a sort of finished product out into the world like Sphero was. There's been a few sort of home robot startups that haven't done so well lately. There was Jibo, which raised a bunch of money and was trying to sort of go into the Amazon Echo type space, but more emotion and didn't quite make it out the other side. There was Anki, which was a sort of another toy robots company, Curry, the Mayfield Robotics, and they were all sort of doing different things. Like, how are you different to that, and why take a different strategy?
Yeah, so we actually started there, like trying to figure out what the killer thing was for robots. And that's what some of these other companies that you mentioned tried to do as well. And what we found is...
Not killer robots, the killer app for robots, just to delineate that.
Yeah, definitely. So like, we started trying to find what that application was, and other than vacuuming in sort of the home and office space, nobody's really been able to crack that code. And we spent probably 6 months at Sphero just going in circles trying to figure out, like, is it the security bot, or is it like the take care of elderly people robot? And it just always broke down. It just, like, the cost would have been too high and maybe there wouldn't have been a big enough audience. And we started to think back to other platforms, maybe like computers or smartphones, and realized that, you know, most of the apps on my iPhone are not written by Apple. They're written by third parties, people who are experts or companies who are experts in productivity or gaming. So we decided to try that approach with robots, get this platform out to them, and take that approach versus trying to figure out the killer thing ourselves and have to be experts in all these different disciplines.
Right. And so how do you make sure that the sort of hardware component gives people enough extensibility to do that without sort of overwhelming them with options? There's that sort of balance of control and openness always.
Yeah, I mean, so Misty isn't like open source, but we try to be as open as possible and let you, like an engineer, if they want to get super low level and crazy, like they can. But we also try to make it really easy. So if you know what, like there's a whole world of like hobbyists out in the world that use something called an Arduino. And it's a little microcontroller board that kids can use. It's that simple, that allows you to hook motors and sensors and LEDs or whatever you want and create projects. So we made an Arduino backpack on the back. So that's how, if say Misty doesn't have some functionality that somebody needs, so we're getting customers now that are buying Misty that say want to like patrol around and monitor something in a space. So I'm going to make this up, but like let's say they want to monitor for a toxic gas in a warehouse and have Misty patrol around a set path and take toxic gas readings. So we don't have a toxic gas sensor on Misty, but it's super easy to hook that sensor in via the backpack and get that into your skill.
And how do you help people figure out when they need a robot? Like when they need something that moves around? And because I think there's sort of, I mean, obviously it makes cute noises, so that helps make the case a lot. But like, what are the kind of situations where you feel like you need something that is, you know, has something approaching a face that can move and wheels that can walk?
So we had like some hypothesis about what those applications would be. We thought maybe some elder care applications, but we weren't totally sure. A year and a half ago, we did a crowdfunding campaign through our own platform. We sold about 500 of them, and we started shipping those again at the beginning of last month. And now that people have them, we're asking them what they're actually starting to do with it. And we're finding that about half of those people are either in healthcare, elder care, or education. So a lot of college professors using it for teaching computer science, because we think, you know, robots are going to be the future. So it's important for their computer science students to know how to program robots. And again, it's sort of changing now from having to be more mechanical engineer or electrical engineer like myself, building robots, to software engineers being able to use robots. So it's mostly those concierges. We're getting a lot of interest from people who want to use Misty as a concierge, maybe say for like a high-end hotel, that it's, you know, it's more personal than talking to like a little black tube in your room. But you probably don't want, you don't want like a person in your room.
Right.
So the robot is a good, something good for that. And then the elder care space, saying like why Misty in this form factor? Like they're telling us because she's friendly. Like, people want to come up, even old people like to come up and interact with Misty. And she's mobile, but she can't go up and down stairs. Like, technically she can go down the stairs, not gracefully, but and because of that, like, most elderly people don't have multi-story homes, mostly single story, so it works well for their environment.
But so, what would it do for those people? Like, I mean, in a seniors environment, like, what is it? Just company, or is it communication, or is it a emergency care in some way? I mean, I know you.
Yeah.
It's not gonna.
So we had a guy that posted a video, I think last week on Twitter, and shared it with us, who had implemented fall detection. So we reached out to him, and he told us a story that he had a family member that had a stroke, and they were alone, and they weren't found for a long time, and I think they're okay, but it was really bad. So he wants to use Misty for safety. So patrol around a space, or if she hears a loud noise, localize on that sound and be able to go and investigate if something's wrong, or just patrol and use the fall detection that he's already implemented with Misty to see if somebody's fallen or laying on the ground, train a computer vision model on people laying down, and then take a picture and send that to family members, and then they can contact emergency services if they need to.
Wow, that's great. And so, sorry, I don't actually know the answer to this question, but does it look after itself? Does it know to sort of go home and recharge like a Roomba or something like that? So if you're in an environment where there is somebody who's maybe not super technical that it's looking after, can it look after itself?
Yeah, and this product is a little bit different than what we did at Sphero. Like Sphero, when we launched BB-8, the software, because it's for kids, and kids are the end user right out of the box a lot of times, it has to be perfect. With Misty, we're evolving the product. So yes, technically Misty can drive back to her charger. So we have a wireless charging pad that she charges on wirelessly. And it has a bunch of what we call fiducials, like markers on the charger that she can navigate to it. We haven't actually finished that software yet, but we're always pushing software updates every couple weeks. So we're improving mapping, so mapping can map a bit bigger space. And we'll have auto docking, is what we call it. Auto docking, auto charging will come out in the software update.
Okay. I mean, what did you learn from the Sphero experience that's translatable here? I mean, it's because it seems intuitively like making a toy is quite different to making something that can spot someone having a stroke.
We learned a lot, like, coming from the toy space. I think a lot of roboticists coming in here are more used to just taking literally like an off-the-shelf PC and screwing it to a chassis with some big motors. But coming from the toy space, we learned there's a lot of tricks to make things very cheap. Because in the toy space, it's like every penny counts. So the way, the factories we use and the methods that we use, I think we were able to cut a lot of cost out. So that was really helpful. And then we learned a lot from Disney on creating a character.
You're in the Disney Accelerator program, right?
Yeah.
Sphero was.
Yeah, so we went through a program called Techstars. It was an accelerator program with Disney in 2014. And that's when we had our 10 minutes with the CEO of Disney, Bob Iger, and he pulls out his phone and shows us this picture of BB-8 and asked us if we could make one because we had already been making this ball robot. And we made one that night. Like, we had all our molding supplies and 3D printers and everything out in LA. So when everybody else had left, we took our phones out and put some Star Wars music on and took a little phone video of it and sent it to them. But some of the things we learned from BB-8, like I was at a conference, it was years ago now, but BB-8 was already shipping. Somebody was driving it with the phone. We had like a little joystick that you can control BB-8, and BB-8 kind of went off, not where they wanted it, and it got stuck in some cords. And because I was part of engineering it, I knew it was part of our control system that was running in BB-8, and and the phone app with the joystick that was the cause of the problem. So in my head, I'm thinking like, shit, like what's, thinking about the email I need to write to our engineering team so they can fix the joystick and make sure they tweak the control system for BB-8 so it doesn't do that again. And the response from the person was like, oh, I'm sorry, BB-8. I'm so sorry I got you stuck in these cords. Like, let me help you out. And like carefully picked up BB-8 and put them, back away from the cords and apologized for our technical deficit. And kind of what I realized was that you don't need a lot of connection. Like, you don't need like a weird level of connection with the robot, but if we can create just a little bit of a connection between the user and our product, our robot, they'll actually overlook a lot of the technical deficits that we have because this technology is just so hard. Surrey is like crap. If it doesn't work, it sucks. But people, I think like BB-8, if we can create a little bit of that connection, like people might actually apologize like for our technical problems potentially, which is helpful for us.
So tell me about how that informed the design of what we see here, because I mean, even the size and scale of it is an interesting decision. There are much bigger, almost human-sized robots out there, but there's something about the size of this that makes it feel intuitively more approachable.
Yeah, and that was really important. I mean, if we want to get these robots into our homes, doing useful things for us in our offices, it needs to be friendly. It needs to be approachable. Like we bought other off-the-shelf robots that were much bigger, like telepresence robots and stuff. And people in our office just got like really uncomfortable. Like it was really interesting, like how uncomfortable they got.
And these are people that work on robots, so it's not like...
Yeah, and even, there's other robotics companies out there that have incredible technology. And it's interesting to see people watch these robots. And there's sort of like you can see sort of a conflict in their minds. Like it's fascinating and it's interesting, but it's also kind of scary. So we just wanted, we have enough challenges in robots. Like we just wanted to remove that and make sure, Misty will be accepted.
Right. And in terms of how this goes from here to the mainstream, I mean, this costs a couple of $1,000 now, but a lot of the robots that people are developing have very sophisticated hands that can grab things, and it's obviously with a V1 or 2, it's not going to be there straight away. But what is the path to getting there, and how much of that is dependent on developing hands and other?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up with Rosie from the Jetsons. Like, if you guys know who Rosie is, that's the robot we all want. I want the robot when I come back to the US from Web Summit. I fly to LA today, and then I'm in LA for 3 days, and then I go back home.
And home is Colorado.
Huh? Yeah, Boulder, Colorado. I want to be able to just put my bags on the floor when I get home, and a robot should come up and put everything away, and take all my dirty laundry and wash it and fold it and put it in my closet. That's the robot we all want, right? But that's so freaking hard right now. We got to start somewhere, and what we found is there is a lot of applications for a simpler robot, like what we're finding from our customers in elder care and concierge and stuff like that. And that gets us to the next step. There's enough verticals to get us to this is Misty 2, that gets us to the Misty 3. And Misty 3 is probably a little bit bigger and maybe starts to have some manipulation. And technology needs to evolve. One thing, robots are physical hardware. It takes a lot, it's money, it's steel and things like that. So there's going to be algorithms that allow us to create a cheaper, less precise mechanical system, but solve and make it better with algorithms and software to account for that instability.
So it's not necessarily that the hand has to get better. You can do more with software that will compensate for the limitations of the hardware.
Yeah. So we're starting with developers. Longer term, 3 to 4 years from now, when enough skills have been developed, then we start shifting to consumers. Like Misty will actually be able to watch your dogs and your pets and be your security bot and play, wake you up and play music and stuff in the morning. So that's where we're going in the short term over the next few years, and then it's an exciting time for robots.
Great. We're out of time, but you're going to be doing some demos off to the side, I think, when we're off stage?
Yeah, if anybody wants to see Misty more and interact or some more demos, I'll just be around on the right side of the stage here, just around the corner. So
great.
Come say hi.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you,
Misty.
Tim.
Okay.